We can't say cracker on Twitch. They might get us in trouble. Like, that's a real thing. I hate the internet.
Yeah. I could say cracker on here.
Yeah.
Cracking. Hello, welcome to So We're Watching That Right, a podcast where two lesbians bully each other for having the same taste in anime. I'm Becky, scientifically certified best girl.
And I'm Val, everyone's favorite harem protagonist.
Today we are going to consummate our transitions by doing the ultimate girly thing and talking about boys for half an hour. Or, to go with the other intro that I considered, today we are talking about misandry, because it became a recurring joke that Val was accusing me of misandry on the show for a while.
Only because I was also habitually accusing you of misandry in other contexts for a lot longer.
I guess so, technically, yes. Anyway, we're going to talk about boys. We're going to talk about anime boys specifically. And, you know, the goal of this is to, like, actually try to explain in a critical sense what's going on when those jokes come up. So, to start with a clarification, we are talking about male anime characters, not men, not boys, not real human beings. A fictional character is not a person in the ontological sense. You know, a fictional character is a web or a system of symbols that are there to induce an audience to make believe things about a person. Some of those symbols are the reports of events in the fiction, like direct representation of Johnny woke up in the morning and he brushed his teeth and he walked downstairs and his sister was there and he said hi to her. You know, that's direct representation of fictional events. But especially in the context of the modern media industry, which is very heavily reliant on genre systems, a lot of the symbols that make up characters are not direct representation of fictional events. It's genre signifiers, it's format signifiers, it's tropes, it's in-jokes, it's marketing. And anything at the production scale of even the cheapest anime always involves us talking about corporate entertainment production.
Yeah, these shows are not something that could have been produced, especially not at the scale that they are, by just one person.
Or even just a team purely consisting of the creative people.
Yeah.
There's no artistic purity in corporate media. That's not what's going on. And so everything that happens is enfolded within capitalism and within the extraction of profit. And that's not to say that the people doing the actual work are necessarily doing what they think will maximize profit or are purely like cognitively motivated by profit. But what it means is that weighing down on every creative decision that is made is somebody's idea of what people think, of what people in the company think will make a profit.
And no matter how much artistic intent there is, as the saying goes, the purpose of a system is what it does.
Yes.
And what it does is try to produce profit from whatever artistic content is produced.
Yes. And, you know, the artist is the rat in the walls of capitalism. But, like, the walls are the walls. And throughout the large-scale entertainment industry, and I think probably to a greater degree in the anime industry than in some other places at least, this is a very misogynistic and androcentric culture. It is by men and imagined to be for men. And anime boys are built out of that prevailing patriarchal corporate ideology. So ultimately, the thing that we're discussing here, which is all the times that I have complained about a boy being in a thing, any anime boy has to cross the hurdle of not making me feel unwelcome and pushed away before I can engage with him earnestly on its own merits, right?
Yeah.
As an outsider to the male creator to male audience connection, there are lots of things at work that can push us away from that. This doesn't mean that we hate all anime boys. And indeed, I don't really want this to be like just us going through a bunch of anime boys that we don't like and knocking them down. if you want a bit of that, a taste of that, you can go to Val's Wrath Month series on Till I Get a Girlfriend Isekai Fridays.
I believe this is the first time we've properly mentioned on the show.
Yeah, well, what a context to do it. You just did 5 consecutive episodes of here's a show that I don't like, and in a lot of the cases it was partly there's a terrible boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some obvious anime boys that we like. Shinji Ikari, probably the most obvious. We adore Wakana Gojo from My Dress Up Darling,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not just the characters that Estrogen could save that we like. I want to run down some of our favourite anime boys,
Mm-hmm.
starting with, so we are devoted fans of Hyouka, SNAFU, and I would include Watari-kun's Blank is About to Collapse in that. And I know that you have some very strong kind of personal attachments to particularly SNAFU
Mm-hmm.
that maybe you don't feel to Watari, but I think in terms of the qualities of that show, it's very similar.
Yeah, I won't deny that. I think they're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
I think I've also mentioned a couple times. So I got into anime as like a real thing that could have artistic merit with Hyouka.
Mm-hmm.
And Oreki Houtarou from that was probably the like male character I related to the most until SNAFU hit.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a really good boy, even if he is also kind of just a lazy bastard. And I love him for it because we've all had days like that, but he's always having a day like that.
Yeah. And it's like, Oreki is a comfy boy.
Mm-hmm.
Like his laziness or his disengagement is this. There's a Terry Pratchett character, actually. Pratchett says he was lazy, this character, Victor. That did not mean that he did not, for example, exercise. In fact, he was the only guy at Wizard University who ever used the gym because he had figured out that staying in shape meant carrying less weight around.
Mm-hmm.
It was more energy efficient. And there's a little bit of that in Oreki. His disengagement is always like, I don't want to do this thing because I know it will be uncomfortable or it will be not my favorite. It's a little bit Brendan Lee Mulligan with Salad, if you've seen that particular
Yeah.
20 moment.
And it's also like, he definitely changes over the course of even the anime. And
Yeah.
like, there's a volume or two past where the anime got to adapt that I hope they get to eventually, but it's also been 14 years, so who really knows at this point?
Netflix in 2029.
God. But yeah, he starts out very like, if I don't have to do it, I won't. And if I have to do it, I'll do it as energy efficiently as possible.
Mm.
And it's slow for him to realize that he's done it, but he changes pretty quickly once he gets attached to Chitanda,
Yes.
who is the, if you wanted to be very like unflattering to the show, the manic pixie dream girl of the series.
Mm.
But she's mostly just like giving him motivation in the form of a person to be interested in the world beyond what he needs to do.
Yeah, she channels Manic Pixie Dream Girl energy, and to a certain extent, you know, you could say she exists to pull Oreki into a better way of being, but it never felt like that watching it.
Yeah, it's not like an artificial feeling. It's the sort of thing where like you and I, we both kind of pull each other in different directions and make each other better. It's just kind of like by establishing a bond outside of Satoshi Fukube, who is, you know, his own bundle of problems.
Ain't he just?
That Oreki's been dealing with since at least middle school when he was a lot less tolerable. It's just like, he finally has a connection and a bond that means something more significant than, oh yeah, here's this classmate that I keep getting lumped in with, and we're cool, I guess.
Yeah.
And bonds can do a lot for a teenager, especially.
Mm-hmm.
The loner archetype is also one of those things where it's like, a lot of boys in the anime space like this are portrayed as loners.
Yes.
And not always intentionally. And his is an intentional decision, it feels like.
Yes.
And Chitanda just kind of blows past that and goes, hey, you're good at this stuff. Let's go play. It's like, okay.
In a way, that's like a really key foundational part of it in terms of, you know, that thought about what the industry people, the commercial level industry people think sells, right? Which is they think that their audience is not just young men, but specifically this kind of verging on neat, disconnected, isolated young man.
Verging on hikikomori, there's a difference that I will make it.
Yes. Yeah, no, you're right.
Just because there's a lot of overlap.
Or sort of like what in the West we might call the potential dropout.
Which is calling me out. Sorry, it's crazy that that's true because I was very social in high school. I also dropped out.
Yes, and there are reasons why so many characters of this kind have hit you so hard over the years.
On this note, actually, we need to watch Clannad.
Okay.
Oh, God. That's such a long process, though. It's 2 24-episode seasons, so...
And you will have to put up with how much I will talk about Mega Tokyo.
Probably. That series also has a main character who literally gets held back a year. No, he's threatened with it, but the heroine is the one who gets held back a year, Nagisa. And it's certainly a vibe that series has, even when it's not being really melancholy and very sad about some stuff.
Yeah.
School is a tough time for a lot of kids, even if they're doing all right.
Speaking of, fucking 8-man. Hikigaya Hachiman in SNAFU.
Which, happy birthday on Saturday. We were passing his birthday between recording and when this releases.
Yeah.
His birthday is 8/8, and that's why his name is Hachiman.
Happy birthday, 8-man.
It's really unfortunate of his parents to have done that.
The names in that show is so fucking... It's such a good show. I love a knife fight. I love, just stabbing myself in the hand repeatedly for 3 seasons.
Yeah. So Hachiman is, again, a loner, but there's more to it than just disinterest. Because ultimately, the problem he has is that he is a cynic in the way that a lot of cynics are, that they are optimists that have been betrayed by reality in one way or another.
Yeah.
And it's real rough, but he goes through a lot, and his teacher forces him to make connections, and that is how the series starts and progresses.
She's such a monster.
She's such a monster, and she's also
the best.
She's great.
Angels are also a kind of monster. Changed my mind.
Hachiman would have gone for her if she was 10 years younger. And she's trying to kind of get that anyway.
Yep.
In some of the bits. It's okay, behave.
Chill, lady. The thing about 8-man is... So, I called Oreki a comfy character. 8-man is not comfy. 8-man is all spikes. And he externalizes his self-loathing. He requires people who engage with him to accept his self-loathing as a part of him. And it is only because of the sheer bloody-minded stubbornness of Yui and Yukinon and Iroha and so on that those spikes get ground down and the deeply vulnerable core gets exposed.
Yup.
SNAFU particularly, I think, there's so much literary depth to that story. And some people will hear me say that and will never believe it. And there's nothing I can say to convince people that an anime about teenagers kind of sitting around and waiting for scrapes to find them could be art of that depth, but it is.
Yeah, you have previously described it as more tense than some knife fights you've seen in fiction, which is, yeah. If Oreki is a comfy boy, 8-man is a deeply uncomfy boy, and that's a whole thing that made... He gets called at one point a monster of self-consciousness, which is a line from a character who I want to stab a little bit, but is completely true, and also, oof, I feel that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There are shonen anime battle scenes in SNAFU, but they are conversations. The time on the roof, where he has the showdown with that other...
At the end of season 1, yeah.
Yeah, there are shonen shows where the big climactic end of season 1 showdown between the hero and his nemesis has exactly the same energy. But, in this case, the special moves that they're shouting out the names of are conversational rejoinders.
Yeah, him hitting her with hey, if your friends like you so much, why did some rando fuckhead find you first? It's just like, ooh. And he gets thrown against the wall for it.
Yeah, like the fight thrums under the show a lot. And it really does require you to remember that for all the sins of teen boys and for all the like weird mess of privilege that enables those sins, it still fucking sucks to be a teenage boy.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of it fucking sucks to be a teenage boy,
Naoto
Watari from Watari-kun's blank is about to collapse. This one we've talked about in depth on the podcast in previous seasons, but the thing that really makes this show stand out is the poverty.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this season we have Rich Girl Caretaker, which has a poor main character, but the scenario completely resolves his actual financial situation.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where, like, a lot of series will make a character poor so that they can instantly resolve it.
Yeah.
Or at least then put them on the road to resolving it. Here, it's just kind of like, our family's poor, and I'm not sure that my housing situation will last, and that's just going to stay true through, like, 80% of the series.
So much of this show is he's probably not going to get to go to college because he's going to graduate and immediately have to enter the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically does. Like, the show doesn't end with him graduating, but it ends with him the summer between his second and third years, like working the summer and living with Satsuki as he does so, like practice married life, kind of, in a 2-room apartment. And like, Watari works because the show was able to keep us guessing about which girl he was going to end up with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just listening to some of our episodes about that today, and I genuinely got it wrong a whole bunch during the first half of that show, getting steadily more and more confident that Yukari was going to win, and no. And that gave it a real groundedness.
Yeah.
You know, it felt like Watari didn't know who he wanted to get together with.
That's also kind of I've talked about second best girl syndrome, where a lot of the time series will, like, presume that because a premise is based on a specific character, like romance and love triangles, that a specific character is the primary focus of the premise, they're going to end up with that, so they have to make other characters stand out. I don't think that that's true of Watari-kun, just because I don't think there was ever any bit of certainty in my mind that he was going to end up with Satsuki, because as much as the premise is about, Satsuki shows back up in his life, it's also about him being an anxious teen boy about his crush.
Yes.
And that mess of a situation.
And the crush rules him. Like, he fucks up because of it multiple times in ways that are very real.
Yeah.
And, like, part of what makes these three characters stand out as some of our absolute favorites is that they have that capacity to fuck up, and the show allows them to fuck up.
And follows through on them fucking up specifically.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Following through is the key thing of, like, you know, it's a thing I hate in sitcoms where the sequence will build up to the moment where the protagonist has his trousers around his ankles in public. Then it laughs and it cuts to after, and we don't cover how they extract from that situation. Yeah,
the reset to neutral is like, depending on what the situation is, it can be fine, but it's definitely not something I like.
Yeah.
I like the continuity.
Yeah. And these are all shows that don't do the reset to neutral. I put Yamada from You and I Are Polar Opposites in here, and I think, you know, he is one among many boys that we like and root for deeply, but I don't think actually I've got anything super interesting to say about him now that I think about it.
Yeah.
He's just like on my mind because I love that boy and I want the world for him.
Yeah. I think he's a good demonstration of, like, maybe not the extreme, but a boy who is capable of recognizing that he is wrong sometimes and overdoes it sometimes because he's just excited for his friends.
Yeah. It's also, like, the thing that is unusual about Yamada, besides the fact that, you know, he does admit mistakes and acknowledge them and try to make amends and stuff, is that he is not habitually an overthinker. He just goes for it very often, and it's great. But let's get this over with. We have to talk about Keima Katsuragi from The World God Only Knows.
Yep. One of my favorite boys.
One of my biggest defeats. So Keima is introduced as a dating sim obsessive. And the scenario of the show, the conceit of the show is he uses his expertise in dating games to seduce girls who are possessed or under a curse, so it doesn't really matter, in order to break the curses, which happens when they kiss him, and then they don't remember anything until they start remembering things.
But that's a different arc.
Well, that's the season 3 thing, which, to be clear, basically nothing that happens before that generated any positive feelings towards Keima Katsuragi in me at all. So one thing that I think is really useful to think about with Keima is that a big part of my problem with it wasn't really Keima himself, it was the framing. It was the way that the narrative world of the story had been set up to engineer him succeeding every time with his bullshit. And this, again, goes back to that opening point about this being a structural thing. It's not really about Keima, who is irritating but funny. Really, it is about everything in the fiction is subserved to making sure that at the end of the 2 or 3 episode arc, Keima's bonkers schemes actually pay off. Maybe not in quite the way he envisaged. He does grow over that. And I very much remember feeling at times in the second season that I was fighting to hold on to my hatred in a way that I considered myself entitled to. But it's the third season where his schemes stop working and he has to deal with not having that convenient sitcom-y memory wipe at the end of each arc. The girls remember him now. Yeah.
And then it turns into a bigger narrative about figuring out which of them remember him and having to process the fact that he's seduced all these girls and what that does to a motherfucker.
Yeah. And God, by the end of season 3, it's stabbing you in the fucking guts. The ending of that show is brutal. I still haven't read the manga.
Yeah, I know you haven't.
I'm not strong enough. And I hate that this is a show that can make me feel that I'm not strong enough to read the fucking manga. The absolute shame of my defeat.
Yeah, the thing about Keima Katsuragi is the world is propping him up in a way that irritates you. For the first season especially. It slowly starts to weaken its grip in the second season, and the knife pull for the start of the third season is where you realize that the scaffolding is not there anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that pivot from season 2 to season 3, and like season 1 and season 2, I enjoyed even before I was like really conscious of myself and my view on masculinity, just because it's kind of a goofy time.
Yeah.
I read the one shot that preceded the manga. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I saw it, I got an anime. I was like, wait, holy shit, that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, if you take it as a comedy built on its original premise, it is funny, and the animation is full of life. I did go into it with some very weird preconceptions about it.
Yes, you did.
Discussed on the show in the past. That also
Hamilton A and B.
Shut up! Shut up! That Hamilton A and B is legitimately better than Hamilton, and arguably better than the first 2 seasons of this show.
I don't disagree, but it's still really funny.
Shut the fuck up.
Anyway, I was a fan of the show before the twist, and I didn't know the twist was coming. And then when the twist came, I was just like, oh, this is really good. And it was like the twist that I got with me getting into Hyouka, where I was like, oh, this has merit. This is something I could show to someone else.
Yeah.
And have them enjoy and not feel weird about. The twist is also when the scaffolding falls away for the story and for Keima's convenience, it also turns him from a character who is not allowed to have doubts on an author, word of God level, to one that has to.
Yeah.
Because that's so much happening. Suddenly, I need to figure out who of the girls I've seduced remembers me, or this person's gonna die.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
That specific rug pull as well is very, puberty hits.
Mm-hmm.
Puberty hits and suddenly all the confidence is gone.
Yeah, extremely. And the thing that, like, I was going to write a thing about it at some point, and then I transitioned and I was like, I don't know if I really need to talk about masculinity anymore.
Yeah.
But hey, we're here. I had this kind of like model of fictional characters that I liked that were boys that weren't insufferable to me, that I mostly called reticent masculinity, where it's mostly just like boys who are capable of being confident, but need to take a second to doubt themselves and double check things before they get into that like confident move forward into whatever they're doing. And Oreki is like this. He has a lot of doubts. He doesn't really overthink things. He just spirals a little sometimes.
Yeah.
He spirals about the effects more than anything.
Yeah. He's not permanently overthinking, but he is permanently thinking, and sometimes that spills over into overthinking.
Yeah, and then we have 8-Man, who is an overthinker.
Yes.
But whenever he does end up actually making a move, he moves with confidence, even when it ends up hurting himself, which is a whole thing about that show.
Yes.
And Watari-kun is also full of doubt.
Yep.
That boy is 98% doubt by volume.
Yeah. Heisenberg has nothing on this boy for uncertainty.
Yeah, and like Yamada is also like this, where like he doesn't think. A lot of the times when he thinks, it'll just come straight out of his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets interested in this girl and is like, oh, I should probably think about some of this.
Yeah.
Am I being a little much?
Yeah, it's like, oh, this one feels different.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a bunch of anime where there is a hot, popular, confident boy who girls are constantly approaching him and he's, could have any girlfriend he wants, and this girl feels different. And I like a lot of those characters, provided they're peripheral, but this one, it's less sleazy to start with. Mm-hmm. A lot of those characters are sort of, at least some part of the show frames them as presumptively sleazy until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Whereas Yamada is a sweetie from the get-go.
Yeah, he's part of the thing that kicks it off, where it's just like, oh, I kind of overstepped my bounds there. Please go solve this. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
And it's just like, that was an important tone-setting thing for the entire series, and he was core to it.
Yeah. Hey, apologize when you accidentally mess someone's life up, or even just accidentally mildly inconvenience someone.
But as for like doubts, it is really important that Keima doesn't doubt himself for the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Because that's the genre he's in. And that's the pitch, is this idiot is going to get his dumb ass kicked in the knee for a bunch of dumb bullshit that he's going to do, but he's still going to pull through because it's funny to watch this idiot get bonked on the head with a bunch of stuff and manage to pull something out. But once it becomes the goddess's arc, it's like, okay, he's not getting like tripped up by a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to happen because he's not overconfident. Like there's not that balancing act to play, and it gets a lot more serious. And like, we're going to move on to other stuff now, but I think that's also important to mention for Kazuma from Konosuba, because that dude is so overconfident, and also he is saddled with so much bullshit.
Yes.
And it's perfect.
I think it's also interesting to think about Keima in relation to Rentarou Aijou from 100 Girlfriends, because in a very real sense, Keima and Rentarou are both working through a collection of different flavors of girl trope in anime. And Rentarou is even more simply successful in every one of his relationships than Keima is. A lot of which is to do with the fact that Rentarou is clearly inhumanly nice, and it's a much less realistic show. Rentarou is superhumanly able to do the things that his various soulmates need. It's
also just like the matter of genre and structure again.
Yeah.
Because like, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's a section in one of the Dragon Ball comics where a character from Dr. Stone appears and Vegeta has to go, oh no, she's from a different genre than us. I can't deal with that powerful aura. Like, these operate on completely different sets of logic, and they don't interact correctly. And Rentarou is from a fully comedy universe where the comedy subject is romance, and the rest of the characters we have gone through are from dramatic realism universes that happen to be funny at times.
I think Keima in the first 2 seasons is living in a comedy universe, and then it turns out not to have been a comedy universe. Or the way the 3rd season works is by treating it as if the first 2 seasons weren't in a comedy universe.
They punctured the genre veil with Kennen getting stabbed.
And I know that a bunch of lesbians who have learned about Hyouka from fan art of all the bisexual girls in the harem have felt that Rentarou was just another boring anime boy who is just flattered and pampered by the show. But I think that actually, if you watch the show, its core meta move of we are going to run through every possible version of all the tropes and show how a good boy can make them palatable really kind of redeems him, because it turns him, it takes us from the territory of a dramatic character collecting women to the avatar of romance visiting all these women and giving each of them a chance to flourish.
Ordained by God himself, who was busy watching a Ghibli movie.
Rentarou is actually Jesus, whereas Kazuma Satou just thinks he's Jesus. He's a creature.
He should be crucified.
Well, that is what Konosuba is the crucifixion of Kazuma Satou.
I can't wait for season 4.
Yeah!
It's so good! Having read all of it in a week, it's so good.
Yes. And again, Kazuma works because of the meta move. Konosuba understands that Kazuma is kind of a dick when he first shows up. And it sets out to beat that out of him. And he has to spend a whole chunk of the first season sleeping in a stable. That he shares with Aqua, who he hates, and who hates him.
And even by the end of the series, it's only a begrudging respect for each other.
Sorry, you've written the canon end for the series.
Shut up.
Now, and they get on better in that.
Yeah, because they have to make this story work, but also, to all those people who keep drawing Aqua ex Kazuma, I don't believe you. I'm so sorry. It's cute, but no.
Yeah. And, I want to say that the theme of what really turns me off an anime boy is what we could call indulgence, right? That Keima thing of this whole world is oriented around validating your worst behaviors and beliefs, which, the world God only knows grows out of that. Kazuma himself is genre savvy enough to believe that he is stepping into a world that will indulge him in that way, and it never quite does. Contrast this with the boy from Outbreak Company, whose name I've forgotten. Shinichi, who is brought in for his genre competence, and Outbreak Company is very, very funny, but it never quite gets the dramatic gears turning, even when it has terrorist plots and shit.
Yeah, I want to blame part of that on the adaptation.
Yeah,
but
I've only seen the adaptation. The book is different, but I am talking about the adaptation, and I should have clarified that. But in a way, the thing that really turns me off some of these shows is when I feel like what I am watching is a male or a mostly male production team reach through the screen to pet the male members of the audience on the head and reassure them that they are still good boys and that the world is still organized around and for them. And all these characters in their different ways are not that. Whether that is something as simple as, Yamada in Polar Opposites just isn't the main character, because it's an ensemble show and it's just not oriented entirely around him. Rentarou and Kazuma in very different ways. The world is set up to mediate around other priorities. And then there are, the gold standard of Watari and 8-Man and Oreki and so on, these are just characters who are going to struggle whatever context you put them into, because they are well enough and thoroughly enough drawn as characters to be above whatever tropes you put them into.
Yeah. I also, somehow I forgot to mention this, about the stuff that I was talking about with, like, reticent masculinity. The problem is, like, I like a lot of these characters because they have doubts, and a lot of anime fans are the sort to yell at their screen, just do it, you dumb motherfucker, because main characters aren't being confident enough.
Yeah.
Like, there is that sort of engine for the catharsis of, like, oh, I could do this better than this main character that a lot of productions also bank on.
Yeah, and I think, you know, our relationship to that now as 30-somethings is very, very different to, like, the thing that happens for a lot of people when they hit the end of their teens and our culture sells this idea of, okay, you've figured it out now. And most 20-year-olds have not figured it out now. Most 20-year-olds have 6 or 7 of the worst years of their lives immediately ahead of them.
Yeah.
But if that's you, it does get better afterwards, I promise you. However bad you think your teens were, 20s might be worse, but 30s pretty good.
Yeah. You have to find people to stand together with, like, make friends, make bonds.
Yes.
We are a social species.
Yes.
Please do not forget that.
Yeah, don't spend your 20s the way me and Val did, of not being a social species.
I don't know, it got me here. I think I'm happy with that.
Well, that's because, like, you met me towards the end of my 20s, and
now I've ruined you.
I mean...
Looks at this podcast, looks at your anime history. I've ruined you.
Looks at this episode. Looks at this episode specifically and Keima fucking Katsuragi. Yeah, maybe. I do want to say, on the kind of indulgence thing, you know, the boy wins at everything is not a guaranteed torpedo, because we've enjoyed a bunch of shows where the boy wins at everything, like Marimashita Iruma-kun. Iruma just wins all the time, constantly.
He accidentally suplexes a boy on the first day of school, and then they're besties.
Yes. And by the grace of the gods, one among many isekai of a person gets isekai'd and has basically an effortless rise within that context. You know, when we watched By the Grace of the Gods, we compared it to Slime 300, which doesn't figure in this cast because it's about girls, but, like, there's no threat in By the Grace of the Gods. Or The Wise Man's Grandchild, or what's the one that I kept forgetting the exact wording of the title of, that's like, I might as well try learning magic.
I'm a noble on the brink of ruin, so I might as well try. So I might try. I'm trying to. Yeah, I can't fucking remember it either. It's been a while, to be fair.
Yeah, which is just like power creep or power acceleration.
And also, he creates a clone of himself and transgenders it.
Yeah.
And they never address that. That's an option, by the way. You can, not the clone thing, but you can just trans your gender. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, the world wants to make it not fine right now, but we will always be here. And we always have.
Yep. And, like, the thing that makes those shows tolerable is that very clearly these are characters who are superhumanly lovely and only want the best. There's no moral complexity to their inclinations. And this was a weird one that I noticed as I was sort of cobbling this episode together in my head earlier today. A subgenre that I've come to really like is the, like, otome game villainess trope character overcomes her preordained downfall at the hands of the heroine shows. And some of why they appeal to me is that I just find the villainess character fun. But I think one thing that really makes this subgenre work for me is the way that it subordinates the male characters. Not in terms of in the story, but in terms of, like, genre positioning. You know, the good men in those stories can be quite blandly good and quite indulged, but it's fine because the indulgence is coming from the fact that the locus character, the focal character, is a woman and she wants that for them. So the bland and boring and smug boys in those shows they don't make me feel like I'm being pushed out of the way.
This is why villainous fiction is very popular and why we keep getting adaptations of it, because women like it. Mm-hmm. There are women otaku, and the industry is not going to ignore that font of money. Mm-hmm. If they're not aiming for fujoshis, they're aiming for, het women.
Well, the nice thing about otome games is you can hit both at the same time.
Yup.
Anyway, all of this is to say that it is not actually that I am a misandrist, or even that I am anti-male character. It's just that the way that the general media industry and in some particular ways the anime industry is set up, it is very likely that when a show does stuff that I don't like, there will be a male character at the locus of that.
Mm-hmm. And also, I will give you shit for misandry, but you and I both know, and the audience should as well, misandry is not a systemic issue in the way that misogyny is.
Yes.
Let's be so fucking real about that. The only reason I joke about that is because that is true.
Yes. And also because it's funny and I make fun squawky noises when called out on my bullshit. So Watching That Right is a project of Slimebug Productions. Intro and outro music is by me, graphics are by Val. You can find us on Blue Sky at slimebug.bscope.social, YouTube at youtube.com/@slimebugproductions, Patreon at patreon.com/slimebugproductions. Download all episodes from Libsyn at slimebug.pro and join our Discord via the link in the description. Thanks for listening, and until next time, may anime neither betray nor disappoint you.